around. So this is going to be our last day talking about whales, and we're going to be coming from basically about 30 million years ago all the way up to the present day. And the first whales we are going to talk about are the Macroreptorial whales. Before we get into that, remember, Headwaters Science Center, we are open 7 days a week. We are open 9:30 to 5, Monday through Saturday, and 1 o'clock to 5 on Sundays. Also, we recommend you wear masks, but there isn't a mandate anymore. So, Macroreptorial whales is a really fancy way of talking about a group of whales that we call Seti, or toothed whales. And right here is a 3D print of the exposed portion of a sperm whale tooth. And this is a group of whales that actually does include some living members of the whale family. So you want to zoom in on the tooth there. Yeah, you have a little zoom thing on there. You can see it's a quite large tooth. So this is only about half the size this tooth would actually be. So you can zoom out just a little bit. This tooth would be about twice the length of this with a very deep root for catching prey. So, Macroreptorial whales are a group of whales that evolved roughly 20 million years ago. They're in the class Mammalia, the order Artiodactyla, the infraorder Cetacea, and the superfamily, let's see if I can pronounce this, Hairless, which is basically toothed whales. Their modern living relatives, and just members of the group, include sperm whales, pygmy sperm whales, beaked whales, and the such. And their close living relatives, other than outside of whales, are stuff, again, like hippos, giraffes, and antelope. Whales are artiodactyls, after all. And their range is global, out in open water. They tend to be deep water diving predators. The whale here is a relatively average prehistoric Macroreptorial whale, roughly 50 feet. These whales would have weighed roughly maybe 57 tons. And when they evolved to take advantage of a new food source, which was large filter-feeding whales. These large filter-feeding whales presented a very good prey source. And these whales were quite obviously carnivorous. Now, unlike the modern sperm whale, most Macroreptorial whales possessed upper teeth as well. Now, their teeth are not differentiated like Basilosaurus's teeth were. Basilosaurus was the last group of whales that we covered before today. And the undifferentiated teeth are because they are more fully specialized into basically hunting a large animal. They don't chew their food nearly as much, and generally they did not need different types of teeth. The modern whales like in this group are diving predators. They are, as we discussed with basilosaurid whales, hairless. They are large-bodied. They have large teeth. Now, these whales have a blowhole. They do not have nostrils anymore. They have a singular blowhole in the center of their forehead. They have what's called a melon organ, which is a large organ made up of adipose or fat tissue, which kind of focuses and reflects noise. It allows whales with a large developed melon organ to do stuff like echolocation. These whales evolved to feed on other whales and other large fish and aquatic life of the time. So stuff like cephalopods, squids, large fish, and other marine mammals. These whales oftentimes did similar things in their ecosystems like modern orcas did. So these were big, smart carnivores. And these whales would have been quite intelligent. They were another group of whales where they had a large brain size. So they were probably exposed to more social behavior. And again, these are whales that we would roughly recognize today. And they are large carnivores, and you might think, well, these probably are the largest carnivores of their time. But that's actually not entirely true. And this is where we're going to switch over to the next group of whales. And these whales are still around today, and these are the Seti whales. It's almost like I planned this today, actually. So, Seti or baleen whales are the largest living animals on our planet, and most likely the largest animals ever to live. On top of that, they are the largest carnivores to ever live. These animals can reach up to, in modern days, so the blue whale, the largest recorded blue whale was 98 feet, almost 196 tons. Just for scale reference, I've drawn it here. If you want to zoom in on this picture. So right here, if you want to zoom in. So, we have drawn a full-grown blue whale, and by the tail end, we have a 6-foot-tall human. And just for a little bit of continuity, I wanted to show you, I drew Ambulocetus in scale with its descendant. Ambulocetus, if you remember a couple weeks ago, we talked about it. It was the earliest member of Cetacea. It was still an animal that was semi-aquatic and partially terrestrial. In under 65 million years, whales went from small semi-aquatic animals to the largest aquatic animals and the largest animals ever to live. Even in the water, whales push how large a living animal can be to regulate their body temperature, to get blood to everything that needs oxygen, to make sure you eat enough food to survive. This may be the upper limit to what an animal can do. And yeah, so they are in the parvorder Seti. So that's the baleen whales, whales who have large, bristle-like dentition, which they are able to sift seawater for small organisms. Stuff like krill, small fish, and copepods, which are small little shelled animals. And these animals are still with us today. I have seen these animals out in the wild. They're amazing. There's nothing like it, and there has never been an animal quite like this. They range the entire world's oceans from pole to pole. They migrate every year. They cover vast expanses. And these whales are slightly different from the Odontoceti. So, like them, they are bald, they have a blowhole, they have a very large brain. But they do not have a very well-developed melon organ, meaning they are not able to do echolocation very much. But these are also the loudest vertebrates. These animals that do not have, they don't have a melon organ or vocal cords, produce the loudest noise known of any animal with a backbone. And we still don't fully understand how. In ideal conditions where there are not a lot of ships with motors in the water, a whale in California would be able to communicate with a whale past Hawaii. They can communicate vast distances through the songs that they are able to sing. They are unlike anything else. They are remarkably intelligent. These are animals that are shown to grieve. They form individual friendships. It is very likely these animals come up with names for each other. We have recognized certain sounds used to contact certain whales, where they will make a certain noise at the beginning of a whale call, and that whale call is identified for another whale specifically. Yeah.
Do whales live in big groups or do they live by themselves?
That depends on the species. Sperm whales live in large family groups. Blue whales can often be found, and it depends also on male or female. The male blue whales tend to live alone, only really interacting during a mating season. We do know beaked whales are a little bit odd. We don't know that much about them. Given that these animals live out in the open ocean, it can be very hard sometimes to find them, to study them. While we do know a lot about them, there's a lot we simply do not know about whales. And the sad thing about the baleen whales especially is currently the stuff threatening them is not just climate change, but also hunting, illegal hunting and legal hunting in certain countries of these large whales as a food source, pollution impacting the water acidity, and also their food source's ability to reproduce and be found in high enough numbers for them to eat, all threaten these animals. And unfortunately, this is something where we may ultimately wind up being responsible for the extinction of many of these large whales. There truly are no animals quite like them, and it would be very sad if these would disappear, and for it to be mostly our fault. The baleen whales are a great example of something I would like to say, which is, again, we often think that animals in the past were somehow more extreme, more specialized, more interesting than the animals we have today, more special. But again, I would like to point out, there's literally no animal like these things. Whales, especially the baleen whales, are utterly unique in Earth's history. This is an animal nearing the size of a redwood tree. This is an animal that pushes the limit of how big an animal can ever get. And they eat some of the smallest living things. And baleen whales have been on Earth from 37 million years ago until now. They're remarkable animals. I've been able to see humpback whales in the wild a few times, and they're spectacular to watch. And it's something that I would love for people in the future to be able to go out into the oceans and see these animals in the wild. But it's something where it's a genuine danger that, given human activity, we may not have that chance within our lifetime. Which is a reason why conservation groups, especially for these animals, are so important. Any other questions? Do you have any questions, you two? Well, since we got no more questions, I would like to say thank you for tuning in. I know it's been a little bit noisy with all the parties going. We have a couple birthdays today here, which is really nice. Thank you for tuning in. Have a wonderful day. Enjoy this warm weather, please.